I was out riding the other day, and I was pretty close to my dealership, which is All-American, and they had this Facebook post, and it had a picture of this new LiveWire charging station. So I wanted to check it out. I like tech, and as I was walking through the dealership, oh, look at that, look at those white caps out there. As I was walking through the dealership, I ran into Lyndon and Jess, and I'll introduce them in just a second to you. And we started talking about the bikes, the ins and outs of it. It's coming out in August, and one thing, here's my take on this bike. I think it's a solid looking bike. It's gorgeous. Just the lines on it, I love it. But there's a ton of negativity towards it. And they're fixated on the two things, price, range. Price, range, it's all you ever hear. So whenever you see a comment about the LiveWire, I guarantee you're gonna find those two comments. I don't think the motor company is intentionally giving us hand jobs with cactus gloves. And what I mean by that is there's 35 bikes that Harley still makes in this model year, 35 or so, and they use this thing called gasoline. So it's not like they're changing their whole business model to electric. And people are getting so upset about it. So it's not like they're intentionally saying, we're gonna screw you guys. They're not, they're being innovative. They're trying something new. And I'm gonna give them credit for that. I look at businesses as when they try different things, that's a good thing. Whether they fail or they succeed, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen with this LiveWire? It's a niche bike. Would I buy one? Absolutely not, because it doesn't fit my style, but it might fit somebody's style. Don't know what's going to, everybody's got their opinion. I'm just looking at it as they're trying something new. They're coming out with 2 new bikes next year. Good for them. Give them a chance. Let's see what happens. So I'm going to let these guys introduce these two to you, and Lyndon's going to talk a lot about the ins and outs of the bikes, and he's first going to talk about the new battery station. So let me know your thoughts at the end. Hope you enjoy. I was walking through this Harley-Davidson dealership, All-American in Hughesville, Maryland, and I came across this charging station. I came across these great 2 folks that work here. This is Lyndon on your left, or my left, and this is Jess. Jess is the marketing manager. Lyndon is the general manager here. And I wanted them to tell me about this thing right here.
So, as you know, the Harley-Davidson is coming out with their first electric vehicle. Late August is when we'll get the first one, called LiveWire. And so we're going to be one of the dealers here at All-American Harley Davidson. And this is a charging station that we need to have in order to help accommodate our customers. It actually does 2 different kinds of charge. Level 3 charging, which is this monster right here. That'll plug into a port on top of what looks like the gas tank, if it were a gas vehicle, on the LiveWire. But there's also a 110 outlet over here for a regular slow charger. Thing about fast chargers is just like with any battery, the faster you charge it, the harder it is on the battery. So that's a convenience, but it'll stress the battery a little bit more than just doing 110. Also, something that I found out was it will only bring it up to 80% charge on the fast charge, and then it drops down to a slower charge in order to not overheat the battery. It's brand new. I mean, literally brand new. It just got put in yesterday, so we're not tuned up on it yet. But this will be a way for people to see, with electric vehicles, people to see where they can get their vehicle charged up.
So Jess was telling me you guys went up to Philadelphia a couple weeks ago for a seminar. Did you learn anything cool about this thing?
Yeah, it was actually great. They had one of the main engineers there, and a couple of other folks who were showing off a lot of the different facets of the LiveWire. They actually had a complete production model there. They also had a lot of different components, like literally the whole bike broken down into components, which is a little simpler than, I guess unless you took the motor apart, a little simpler than the internal combustion models. But it was really a great opportunity to get a lot more information, because information has been coming out in drips and drabs, and not necessarily the best information. But I think my biggest takeaway was just how much technology there was in this vehicle. I wasn't expecting it to be quite so techy. It's got a 6-axis inertial measurement unit. So the idea is, obviously, the difference between a car and a motorcycle is a motorcycle leans over. And so the difference in what you do with anti-lock braking between being straight up and down and leaned over is pretty important. And then, you know, then there's the wheelie, right? So how far off the front wheel comes off the ground. So this unit measures all of those things, and So we got some good information about that. You end up with 7 different ride modes, from rain, which keeps the front wheel on the ground, no wheel slip, any of that, on up to sport, which allows a pretty good wheelie and some wheel slippage. It'll allow you to get into trouble or have fun, depending on how you view that stuff. And then you can turn it completely off, of course. But there's 4 ride modes ranging from rain to sport, and then there's 3 that are completely customizable. So how much wheel slip you allow, how much front wheel lift you allow, how much wheel slippage you allow. When you roll off the throttle on this electric vehicle, it regenerates electricity, but what that translates to is a tremendous amount of deceleration just from rolling off the throttle. So that's also controllable. You can roll off the throttle and have it, really feel like you're hammering the brakes even though you're not touching them. Or you can roll off the throttle and coast quite a ways, depending on how you control that drag torque slip. The other technical aspects that I was impressed with were the connectivity. So there's a touchscreen display that, of course, will give you the gauge functions, but it also will connect to an app, HD Connect, which will, from your phone, tell you where your bike is, give you, tell you if somebody's messing with it, if it's been hijacked and it's going someplace else. It'll tell you what level the battery charge is at. It'll tell you where the chargers are around you or around the bike. It'll tell you how much you've used it in the past, week, day, month, year, whatever. They also partnered with some pretty high-end people to work on some different things, since a lot of this stuff is outside of Harley-Davidson's expertise. They partnered with Panasonic on the cellular connectivity. They partnered with Samsung on battery technology. They partnered with IBM on some of the cloud computing. And then some other premium component folks who they've worked with before, but for whatever reason they've never had the bike branded with other people's stuff. Like, they've used Brembo brakes for many years. They had them on V-Rods, I think, in 03 or 02, and they had them on touring models since 08, but they've never said Brembo, and they do on the LiveWire. They're Brembo monoblocks that are radially mounted to an inverted front end. The front end is made by Showa. They've partnered with Showa since 1974, but they've never, shown Showa on there. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Other information that we got was some some technical stuff about wheelbase and ride height and stuff like that. They also talked about range. I think when they initially released range estimates, it was 113 miles, and then they said, at least 115 in city driving, and now it's sort of evolved to 140. So they talked about that quite a bit, and I don't know enough about it, but they seem to indicate that the test is a little bit self-done, and so different people can quote different numbers depending on exactly how they're doing the test. And their initial range estimates were based on being extremely conservative so that they wouldn't get bit by having people say that they fell short of what their range was. But the reality is most people out on a ride are not going for, north of 100 miles at a clip. So I think for a lot of people, this is fun. Things that didn't surprise me were the acceleration. 0 to 60 in 3 seconds is really warp speed, and but I think we all sort of assumed that with what we know about electric vehicles. For anybody that doesn't know, you have 100% of the torque that the motor can put out available to you, at 1% throttle. So acceleration is pretty tremendous. Anyway, it was a great information-packed day, and we took a lot of that information back to our staff.
So I really want to thank Jess and Lyndon at All-American Harley Davidson in Hughesville, Maryland, for taking the time for this today. All right, guys, thanks for taking the time to watch. Be well, and I'll talk to you guys soon.